This conversation is sponsored by Mary Nazzal-Batayneh.
This is what I know. We're all connected to one another, the earth and all her inhabitants. We thrive on these connections, real ones that touch our soul, fill our heart and invigorate our mind. I have been so fortunate to experience this all my life, meeting extraordinary, ordinary folks who inspire and provoke. My name is Khadija Muhaisen. Welcome to Adventures of the Soul Conversations. My hope is that they will fill your cup as they have filled mine.
I believe when you're trying to tackle a problem or help people is you have to learn from them. You have to understand what the causes are from them and their needs, not impose your needs on them. Or with the girls, it took a while for the parents to buy into it. The boys, but the girls had to stay home and clean and help at home. And so it triggered a lot of the stuff that I grew up with. And I'm like I remember yelling at a dad, it was this Iraqi dad. I'm like, what are you doing? This is your daughter. She's smarter than your son. The way it works is like this, and there's no compromise. And I think if I wasn't Arab, I couldn't have said that. We try to take away the adult responsibility from our children. And I turn, and he has tears coming down his face. I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, you're leaving and you're never coming back. And I'm like, what? And he's like, what's going to happen to the Fugees family? We don't have any stories out there that humanize refugees, immigrants, Muslims. We don't have that out there. And we have it all in one story.
So there is a part about humanizing the suffering. But you know what else I think? I think you have so much to share in terms of how to fix education, fix whatever is wrong with education now and what we're doing in with public education. You have so much to teach coaches on coaching. And you're not just a coach on the field, you're a coach off the field, and you're like another mentor and parent. There's just, so much.
Yeah. I wish I had time. I like to sit and write. That's one thing that I have been craving more lately. Because I'll see coaches and I cringe at what they're doing with the kids. And I remember after one game, a coach came to me. He's like, you're lucky your kids have hearts. My kids don't have hearts.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, no, everybody's got heart. You just have to find it, And I think my identity is a coach. You can't turn it off. If you're a coach and you want to win games, you have to think about every aspect of your player and what they are like when they come to you and what they are like when they finish with you. And not just as athletes, but as human beings. And Baba, Jeremiah, all of them have coached younger kids under me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because now I just coach the oldest kids and my older kids coach the younger ones.
So you've built a model too. My God, Luma, I'm telling you, this has to be written in a book. You have systems in place that you can teach governments, you can teach UNHCR, it's mind-blowing. You have to make the time.
Yeah.
Luma, what is a refugee?
You want the technical definition?
No, I don't want. I want you. Who's a refugee?
So my grandmother's a refugee. My students are refugees. My babysitters are refugees. My kids' role models are refugees.
Are you a refugee?
Yes, I'm a refugee. I think for me, refugees have given me faith in humanity together, as a group. Probably the most powerful, resilient, compassionate group of people out there.
What is home for you?
I think home is, for me, it's, I've got like sometimes when I say, oh, back home, like I'm talking about Jordan, or now sometimes when I refer to it, I'm referring to Atlanta because that's where I lived for 20 years. And I think it's where there's people that you love, like where you have connections in history. And it can be multiple places. I don't think it's just one place.
So it's the human connections, those relationships.
Yeah. And it's where you feel at home, right? So you say, hey, do you feel at home? And there are certain places where I feel at home. And usually when it's around more people that are like me, or maybe sometimes I want to feel at home when people are speaking Arabic or eating that food, or sometimes when it's people playing soccer and just clowning around. Like, I think it's where you feel most yourself.
And do the kids you work with make you feel closer to home?
Yes. I mean, when I say, we refer to each other as family, and I mean, we do. And we take care of each other like that. And yeah.
Have you finally found your purpose?
I think so. I think it's, sometimes I'm like, is this the middle of the journey? But I think this might still be the beginning of it. But yeah, I think I have found it. There's so much more to do.
And are you 100% comfortable with who you are?
Yeah. I mean, I have a family. I never thought I would have a family. I never thought I would be a parent. And my students, my friends all embrace our family, and they're part of it. I had 12 students staying with us this summer to help recruit in Columbus. So my senior class was all here. And
in your house?
Yeah, in my house. It was crazy this summer. It was like 12 kids, my wife and my 2 children.
And a newborn baby?
And Emily was pregnant at the time, so he wasn't there yet. But, I would just wish there was like a camera to see this mix of craziness and love. Like, we had kids from Burma and Eritrea and Iraq and Kurdistan and Sudan, and my wife is Jewish, and like, it was just crazy. And
this is normal for your kids?
And this is normal, yeah.
They don't think there's anything strange in any of that arrangement?
No, I was worried. I was worried when I first came out to them. I actually didn't come out to them. They saw pictures of my wedding online. And 3 of my players came to my office, and they were like really upset. This was the oldest kids, so they were 18, 19 at the time. And I said, I understand you're upset, but I want to explain, why I didn't tell you.
This was how long after
This was in 2011, back in 2011.
So how long after you built relationships with them?
6 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 5, 6 years. And I said, what are you most upset about? And one of the kids said that you didn't tell us, that we had to find out from someone else. And I said, well, there are a couple of reasons I didn't tell you. The first is I met you when you were 10 and 11. Like, do I come in and say, hey, I'm your coach, I'm gay? Like, how do you make that introduction? I said, I've never lied to you. You've been to my house. There's nothing that I have lied to you about. But you didn't tell us. And I said, maybe part of me was scared, because if I told you, you would have the same reaction that like my dad and some of my family members had, and you would not want anything to do with me. And they're like, we would never do that, and that was like therapeutic for me. And then one of them was just like, he looked at me and he was just so upset. He's like, why did you not invite me to your wedding? And I'm like, what? Like, that's what he was upset about. It's like, you should have. Wow. Like, no, you're not going to my wedding. But it was just, and then, I went and they said, you need to tell everybody, the entire team, which was like 80 kids. And so I went down and told all 80, and they were like clapping and cheering. There's one family that had an issue with it, and they withdrew their son. Like, it wasn't all.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. What was the family's reaction? Because it's almost as if you were coming out back home,
Like, still say, I called Jordan home for you.
Yeah,
but
I mean, some of the kids are like, Coach, I'm not going to tell my parents. And I was like, that's prerogative, and the family that pulled their son out, I am pretty sure that he is,
oh my God.
that hit a little bit. You know, but like I've had, like the families invite us as a couple. Like after that, the families stopped inviting me by myself. They would invite us as a couple, and would ask about both of us. When we had Layla was our first. 4 of the boys wanted to bike to the hospital to meet their sister. And I have like one of my favorite photos is, you know, us with the baby and like 3 of my players with her. They were the first visitors to the hospital. And like I think what it's done is like expose the kids to something that they were either fearful of or disgusted by or whatever, and normalized it and humanized it for them. And I've had a handful of kids come out to me, and I'm glad that they have someone that they can share that with. It's really important for them to have those role models. But like our babysitter back in Atlanta was an Iraqi mom that wore a hijab. Like, you know, it's like this never would have happened back home. But like here, she's under no like constraints to like go with what people think or what people don't think. And
these are the stories that have to be told, Luma. These are stories that have.
Like I remember her, like she was talking to one of my employees, and she said, like it was hard. She's like, I knew, but I didn't know until like I said it. And she said, what's hard is Luma treats us better than anyone else. So how can I not love her and respect her? Like, you know, and so that was what it was about. And another, like, my team has to check in on families. And so she was checking in on a family, Sudanese family. They have like 8 kids and 3 of them are with us. And the dad was like, he's like, so it's true, like Luma's gay. He's like, I don't know about this. And then his wife put him in his place. She's like, oh, you be quiet. She takes care of your son better than you do. You need to respect her. And she's like, don't start with this nonsense of yours. And I was like, wow, like this like Sudanese woman standing up to her husband. And yeah, it's been. I mean, I was really scared of what the reaction would be. But again, the responsibility of being a role model, and then in some ways it was taken out of my hands. Like they saw the pictures, I had to explain it. Like there was no, and then like the TED Talk was the first time in a talk I've done it. Like I've done it in panels and stuff, but it's because this is it. Like the reach is like, you know, over 100 million people, and I'm like, here.
Did you want to do it? Did you want to come out?
People wondering, and I was like, how do you not know? Like, I have kids, I have like, and I was like, here it is, you know. And I showed the talk to my students before it went live. Ted gave me a copy of it, and I stepped out of the room because I'd shared my grandmother's story. That was the first time I shared it with them. And, you know, several of the kids came after me. Some of them were crying. They were like, you know, when I tell stories, it was never deeply personal. It was, you know, I can tell stories about everybody else. But I was always encouraging my students to own their story and tell it.
And you had to own yours.
I had to own my own. And one of the boys came up to me and he's like, Coach, I'm so proud to be a refugee.
Wow.
I was like, yes, like that's what I wanted that talk to do is, yeah. So.
Were you worried about what people would think in Jordan and Syria?
You know, I get.
And she's like, do you have to? Like, can't you just? And I was like, no, like it's time. Like I've done it, and I've done it out of like respect for them for quite some time. I was like, I can't. Like I said, I have children now, and I said, and people in Jordan need to know this. Like like this issue needs to be talked about in the Middle East. And yeah.
Luma, what would you, so now I'm just really only assuming that my daughters and their friends are, we have to cut. We have to finish. Luma, no, oh my God, you have no idea what's going on in my mind. If you would only just go in and see the rush, and I'm trying to prioritize. What would you tell my daughter, my 20-year-old daughter, who is probably at this point struggling with issues of, so many issues, but issues of privilege and wanting to, oh, who's that?
Come, bring him in.
Hello, little one. Come say hi.
Come here.
Come
say
bring
hi.
him in. Is that Layla?
Come say hi.
Come here. Come say hi.
This is my friend, and she's in Jordan.
Hi.
She's asking about the Fugees and about you.
Hi, pretty. Did you just wake up?
Yeah,
Oh.
it's a snow day. Huh?
Oh.
So Luma, what would you tell my daughter?
I would tell her,
Keeping in mind that she's probably right now at where you were at when you were just trying to find answers and trying to figure out your purpose and fighting that white privilege.
I think I would tell her to try a lot of things and put herself in situations where she is uncomfortable or maybe the minority, you know, like do something that makes you question your values or questions your privilege. Sorry, they're all like crying right now.
Okay, we have kids.
Sorry. To be okay with failure. I think this generation is terrified of failure because everything they do is documented online and they have to present themselves as perfect. And it's the places where things are not perfect is where she will find answers to her purpose, like answers in a parking lot with kids playing soccer with rocks as a goal. You know, that's not...
And one shoe.
And a one shoe. Yeah, that's not something that's Instagrammable or a Facebook post. You know, that's something real. And I would tell her because she is privileged, she is, you know, it's like we have this burden of responsibility. And we have to take that seriously. We can't just close our eyes and block out suffering or say, this is too overwhelming, I can't do anything about it. Like carve out and tackle whatever part you can tackle. You don't have to solve, like for me, I don't feel I have to solve the refugee crisis. That's not my responsibility. But for my kids, I can do that. And then now I was like, okay, now we can do it for more kids. And then we do it for more, one step at a time. And to have fun and don't worry about what other people think. And we get so caught up in what other people think. And
it's so true.
Luma, here's your plug-in. I know you're in the process of raising funds. So if there's anything you wish to plug in for to the 20 people that will probably watch this, go ahead.
Like for me, it's, you know, you mentioned like we can teach governments, we can teach people how to do this. We do this on 100% philanthropy. And so our website is fugeesfamily.org. We can take donations from any country in the world. And I would love to see more in the Middle East support us. Because I'm from the Middle East. And sometimes when I look at my donor list, I was like, where are my people? And I would love to see more because we can do more.
And I think your people are looking for your support in terms of showing them the path of this holistic approach to, so it's a give and take situation. That's why I urge you to find the time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, to think about documenting this, because this is a very powerful system, integrated system that you have, that I think we can all learn from. Schools and governments.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luma. You're awesome. I wish you the best of luck, and I'm here to help.
Okay, thank you so much.